Jason Bourne ever exposed the truth, before Blackbriar collapsed and before the CIA lost control of its own monsters, there was TREADSTONE, a secret program built to create perfect assassins, wipe away their memories and bury them inside normal lives until the moment they were needed again. This is TREADSTONE Season 1, recapped from start to finish. Enjoy. The story begins in East Berlin in 1973, where a man named John Randolph Bentley is imprisoned in a brainwashing facility. After 52 hours of sleep deprivation and mind-altering drugs, Dr. Meissner comments that John might not be ready for his final test, but his companion, Petra, believes that they should move forward with their mission, as they've been conditioning him to obey them for the past 9 months. Petra walks into his cell and John begs her not to turn him into a monster, but she comforts him and sings Frère Jacques in his ear, triggering John to execute 3 prisoners without warning. Later, as Meissner injects medicine into John's arm, he mentions that he doesn't have any memory of his own identity. So Meissner reminds John that the CIA sent him to kill Meissner. But now John will be their cicada, who will be the greatest soldier for their cause. Just as Meissner is about to leave, John uses Meissner's glasses to stab him in the neck before murdering all the guards who try to stop him. He heads to the lab where he uses some medicine for his dizziness and feels guilty upon looking at the dead bodies of people he killed earlier. Suddenly the alarm starts ringing, and John thinks of jumping out of the window, but he hesitates as it's too high. However, when Petra arrives in the lab, she finds that John has fallen from the window and quickly orders the security to rush there. Turns out John had put his clothes on one of the dead bodies before throwing it down the window, but Petra figures this out. So she and John get into a fight. After an intense fight, John manages to cut one of Petra's fingers, and Petra eventually pulls out a gun, but before she can fire, John uses a flashlight to distort her vision and rushes to the roof. A few guards open fire on him, but he jumps from one roof to another, pushes the guards down and escapes. At present in Virginia, the CIA director named Ellen Becker is alerted that a high-ranking North Korean general, Chin-Wha Kwon, who is in London with a delegation, has requested to speak with ex-journalist Tara Coleman, and she orders a background check on her. The team reveals that Tara is currently a cab driver, so Ellen assigns Matt Edwards to look into the case. They inform Matt that Tara's parents and sister died in a car crash when she was 10, and she was the only survivor. Before she was fired, Tara was working on a story about a stolen Russian ICBM called Stiletto 6, which was rumored to be aimed at Washington. Matt books a ride with Tara and on the way, tells her that General Kwon won't speak to anyone else but her, and they still don't know the reason behind it. Tara agrees to meet him in return for a good reputation in journalism, so they quickly put a recording device on her. During the meeting, he mentions that he doesn't trust the CIA and warns her that the cicadas are being activated, and TREADSTONE is returning, but Tara has no idea what he's talking about. He asks for her microphone and puts it under the water, making Matt want to barge in, but Ellen orders him to stay back. Kwon explains that a group in North Korea has gone rogue and has tried to obtain the launch codes of missiles from a Russian man named Yuri, which will upset the balance of power, and asks Tara to find the codes before they do. He praises her pursuit of Stiletto 6, which caused her to get fired, and reveals that he knows he will be killed soon. So he requests that Tara bring his daughter Jong-mi, who studies in a boarding school in Paris, saying that the ambassador will be expecting them. He gives her a necklace to pass on to Jong-mi before quickly rushing out, leaving Tara confused. On the other hand, Ellen angrily questions if they did manage to shut down TREADSTONE, and her supervisor Dan only replies that it was far bigger than they initially thought. Elsewhere, Matt asks Tara about the conversation but refuses to reply when she asks about TREADSTONE, claiming that it is classified information. So Tara refuses to reveal what Kwon said to her and leaves. In North Korea's capital, Pyongyang, a music teacher named So-yeon gives piano lessons to the daughter of a rich family before heading to her son's musical performance. As they are about to enter their home, her son hands her a gaming device, saying that he found it in his school locker. But So-yeon panics, as it is illegal in North Korea. So she quickly hides it from her husband named Dae, who reveals that he has brought some friends home. Meanwhile, in the Beaufort Sea, an Alaskan oil rig worker named Doug McKenna is laid off along with multiple others, as a Russian crew will be replacing them. He angrily packs up his bags and his friend calls him for a drink. On the other hand, So-yeon notices that Dae is busy with his friends, so she starts investigating the gaming device. But it starts playing Frère Jacques, causing So-yeon to temporarily zone out and run into the bathroom. While trying to turn it off, she breaks it, finding a note with the address 3200 Ponghwa Street on it. Back at the bar, Doug is chatting with an unknown woman when the Russians rush into the bar and try to hit on her. When she rejects their advances, they start a fight with Doug and knock him to the floor, but Doug manages to get up and eventually gains the upper hand, swiftly taking out several men. While he is choking a man with a chair, he gets out of the trance and freaks out as everyone in the bar stares at him, so he quickly rushes out. The woman catches up to him and takes him to her office to treat his injuries, where Doug discusses his identity crisis, explaining that he has memory gaps. He explains that he has been having a recurring dream, and she goes to get a bottle of wine for them. However, she starts humming Frère Jacques, which puts Doug into a trance. In Kursk, an elderly couple receives a delivery, which turns out to be the old man's hearing aids. His wife is angry that he sold their best bull, but the man is extremely happy to hear clearly again. He plays music and asks his wife to dance, but hears timed beeps coming from the stable. However, the wife doesn't believe him, and she takes his hearing aid off. Meanwhile, in North Korea, Soyeon heads to give the piano lesson, and realizes that the address sent to her is right next to where she teaches. She leaves her student to work on timing with a metronome, and skillfully jumps over a few rooftops to break into the address, where Kwon recognizes her and isn't surprised that she was chosen to kill him. She wonders how Kwon knows her, and Kwon realizes that the cicadas have been woken up but have not yet been told what they really are. Suddenly, Kwon attacks her, and the two get into an intense fight, where she tries to stab him with a syringe sent inside the gaming device, but he manages to knock it down the drain. She eventually gains the upper hand and strangles him to death, and starts looking for the syringe. However, she is shocked by what she has done and rushes back to her student. At the same time, Doug wakes up in the middle of nowhere in Alaska with a highlighted picture of a woman and a bag, so he picks one package from the bag and runs. Meanwhile, once the wife goes to sleep, the old man puts the hearing aid back on and follows the noise to a trapdoor in the stable, which leads to a bunker with a flashing panel. He turns to find his wife behind him, who stabs him to death while saying that she tried to warn him. She turns on the lights to show the stiletto 6 and her missing finger, revealing that she is Petra. Back in 1973, Petra got in the car to chase John, telling the driver that John must have gone to the safe house. John uses a secret radio at the safe house to send a message to his American soldiers, saying he is coming back home. As Petra rushes up to his apartment, John hides under the staircase before using one of Petra's cars to escape. John returns to the CIA base, but he has forgotten his locker password, so his partner Frank helps him and thanks John, revealing that John let himself get caught to save Frank. Another agent named Pete aggressively demands if John had seen his partner in the facility, but Frank asks Pete to give John some space. Frank reveals that John's mother was informed that John had died based on agency protocols, but John is shocked as he believes that he was only gone for a week, which makes Frank reveal that John had been missing for 9 months. John freaks out, but Frank leads him to the station chief's office, warning him that the chief will be questioning him about what happened to him while in captivity, and will ask if he can identify any culprits. Soon, the new station chief Dennis Kohler joins John and asks him to reveal all he remembers. So John starts by explaining that he and Frank were deployed in Krakow to find intel on a Soviet program called Cicada. They found that Meissner's lab was located inside a prison, and confirmed that the Cicada program was made to design human weapons by stripping one's identity, using hypnosis and drugs. They were ordered to kill Meissner and secure his research, and that didn't go as planned, but John sacrificed himself for Frank. John explains that he was kept in isolation, tortured and drugged while he desperately tried to hold on to his identity. He mentions that Petra knew all his memories, and she controlled his thoughts, but it somehow made him feel more complete. He mentions that he finished the mission, but Dennis believes that they let him kill Meissner to send him back to the CIA as a double agent. Dennis orders psych evaluations on John and asks for him to be escorted, which reminds John of how he was tortured. So he knocks down a guard and takes his gun. Frank shows up and John takes him hostage, but as they enter the elevator, 2 other men follow them, not knowing about the situation. But an announcement is made to capture John, so John subdues all 3 of them and escapes before the alarm is rung. Meanwhile, Doug dreams that he is chained underwater and notices the key to free himself, but has to kill another man to get it. He wakes up on the plane and checks the bruises on his ankles, but his friend tells him to relax as they are heading back home. On the other hand, Ellen explains to Matt that Kwon was assassinated within 24 hours of revealing that TREADSTONE is back, but this time with cicadas, saying that they are sleeper agents deployed with normal cover lives, with no memory of their training. She reveals that Kwon was a cicada handler, which makes Matt claim that TREADSTONE used a specialist in behavioral modifications named Martin Wells, and he might know how the cicadas are being woken up. In Kursk, Petra burns her husband's body and calls an unknown number to find it is no longer used by the secret facility, so she packs her bag and leaves to find them. Elsewhere, Tara reaches the college Jong-mi is attending in Paris, when she gets a call from Matt, who explains that 2 North Korean SSD operatives have landed in Paris, saying that she and Jong-mi are both in danger. Tara rushes inside only to find that Jong-mi is off campus, so Tara checks recent pictures to deduce where the girl might be, and she rushes to the Palace of Versailles. At the same time, Soyeon is covering her injuries in the bathroom when her son asks her to take him to the park. There, he reveals that he lied about the gaming device being in his locker, as a man gave it to him and threatened him not to tell anyone about it. He explains that he is scared the man will kidnap him, so Soyeon comforts him, promising that she would never let that happen. Back in 1973 at KGB headquarters, Petra is loudly scolded by a soldier named Yuri in front of a tribunal for letting John escape without complete training, warning her that if John remembers their research methodology and helps Americans replicate it, she will be left to rot. Later, Petra and Yuri are in bed discussing the situation, and Petra claims that John was smarter than any man they've conditioned, which makes Yuri jealous. She promises that she will bring John back, and Yuri admits that he might have to kill her if she fails to do so. In present-day Moscow, Petra calls someone asking why she was forgotten, so she's asked to meet them in person tonight. In Paris, Tara eventually finds Jean-Mi, but she isn't willing to talk to Tara. So after Tara gives her the necklace and informs her that Kwon is dead, Jean-Mi realizes that she is in danger and follows Tara to her car along with her boyfriend. Meanwhile, Doug reaches home, but his wife Samantha pulls out a gun, thinking someone has broken into their house, but is happy to see Doug and they get intimate. In Pyongyang, So-yeon suggests to Dae about escaping to South Korea for a better life, but they hear a knock on the door. Dae is surprised to see his boss Colonel Shin there, and So-yeon quickly grabs a knife in case she needs to protect her family. But the colonel only takes Dae out for a drink. Once he leaves, her son points out that Colonel Shin gave him the illegal gaming device. Elsewhere, Matt sits next to Martin Wells in a bar and asks what he knows about the Cicada program. So Martin reveals that he developed a type of hypnosis in which the subjects would wake up because of an image or sound, and it had an over 85% success rate. Matt doesn't believe him. So Martin shows that he has hypnotized the bartender under a phrase, which gets him free drinks. Matt shows Martin security footage of a gunman named Haynes killing multiple people in a convenience store, explaining that Haynes appears ordinary until one realizes that he uses techniques and skills of a highly trained assassin. However, Haynes was easily arrested as if he forgot how to fight once his mission was completed, and the two decide to visit him in prison. On the other hand, Doug wakes up from a nightmare, and he searches for the address of the woman he is supposed to kill before heading there with a gun. At the same time, Dae comes back from drinking and explains he has been promoted, which has tripled his salary, all because he exposed General Kwon. It makes So-yeon get flashbacks of when she murdered Kwon, but she promises never to bring up escaping to South Korea again. Back in Paris, Tara is driving Jean-Mi to the embassy when unknown assailants chase them down. Tara tries to speed away, but the attackers are more skilled and open fire, killing the boyfriend traveling with Jean-Mi. The assailants move parallel to them to shoot Jean-Mi, but Tara decides to slam into the side of the gunman's car, causing both hers and their car to flip over. Tara opens the flipped car's door and pulls Jean-Mi out, urging her to run to the embassy. The assailants chase them, so Tara takes Jean-Mi down a subway to escape from the other side, but a North Korean agent spots them and opens fire. However, they manage to escape and rush into the embassy. A 1973 flashback shows John infiltrating the KGB facility and sneaking into the lab without anyone noticing him. He tackles a woman, but she begs him not to hurt her, revealing that she is only a cleaning lady, and that everyone who worked there had left a day before. They cleaned all the evidence before leaving, and John only finds Petra's watch on the ground. In present-day Moscow, Petra heads to an old apartment where she glances at the same watch before trying to turn on the lights, only to realize there is an electrical issue. She tries to fix it, but the neighbor comments that the building has a circuit problem, and offers an extra fuse, so Petra invites her for tea. Petra heats the kettle before attacking the neighbor with it, and the two get into a fight. The woman resists the attacks, but Petra eventually stabs her twice and then shoots her. Saying that Max should have warned her to shoot Petra on sight. In Washington, Ellen tells her husband Tom that she can't leave her job yet, although they plan to raise their kid elsewhere, and Ellen gets a call from Matt, who explains that he is outside Haynes' house planning to break in, as Haynes is under police custody, who isn't allowing Matt to talk to him. Ellen tells him that she will help him get access, and Matt asks her to look into the victims. Matt enters Haynes' house and finds the place destroyed. So Martin explains that brainwashing humans is an imperfect science, as some continue with their lives by forgetting it while others go insane. Matt next heads to the police station to meet Haynes and asks him aggressively why he killed the victims from the convenience store shooting. But Haynes claims he just felt compelled to kill them. He adds that someone named Control sent him a time, address, and pictures of people they wanted to be murdered. Martin hypnotizes Haynes, who starts claiming that he was recruited and trained, eventually revealing it was a woman who told him to kill people. However, Matt presses on for names, but Haynes doesn't know any and suffers from a seizure. Meanwhile, Doug gets a call from his friend who offers him to sell drugs for some cash, but Doug refuses. Soon, Samantha arrives after work and Doug suggests they go out for a drink, but he takes her to the club, which has the address of the woman he is supposed to kill. He shows the bartender the picture, asking if he has seen her, but the bartender stays silent. On the other hand, Dae tells So-yeon that they will be attending a high-end party that night, so she should dress up properly. He also reveals that he is working on a secret case, and she notices a note on Stiletto 6 in Dae's work files. Elsewhere, in India, a waitress named Neera Patel is activated, and she is sent a picture along with the address in a message on her phone. She heads to a monastery where she sits near a man, and later she makes subtle eye contact with him in the market, until he follows her to a dark alley where she eliminates him with a poisoned aerosol spray. Back at CIA headquarters, Ellen is notified about the death of Johann Lang, the man Nira killed in India. It is revealed that he had recently inherited the second largest pharmaceutical company in Germany, but Ellen does not focus on it for long. Instead, she points out that one of Haynes' victims was a stay-at-home mother who previously worked on the Expo Oil Arctic rigs and had reached out to the press with proof of labor violations. Dan does not understand how this connects to Treadstone, so Ellen explains that Expo Oil's biggest ally on Capitol Hill is Senator Ray, who sat on the Senate Intelligence Committee during the Blackbriar hearings. Realizing there may be a deeper political connection, Ellen orders a broader investigation. Back in the 1970s, John visits Frank's apartment, where Frank tells John that 3 undercover assets vanished in Budapest 5 months ago. But their bodies were found the same day John escaped, making Dennis believe that John killed them. John admits that he had to kill them for his final test to become a cicada, and John begins to weep, but Frank opens the door for Dennis, who had been hearing the entire conversation. Dennis instead shoots Frank dead and orders John to track Petra down. In Moscow, Petra puts a knife to Max's neck, demanding to know why Yuri wants her dead. So Max explains that Petra no longer serves any purpose. She explains that she spent the last 24 years guarding that missile, but Max doesn't know what Yuri plans on doing with the bomb, so Petra slashes his wrist and leaves. At the embassy, Tara consoles Jong Mi, revealing that she lost her own family in a car accident, saying that the people who love them always want them to keep moving forward. After that, someone from the embassy tells Tara that an unsanctioned group in North Korea has raised $500 million in cryptocurrency to buy the launch codes for Stiletto 6. Because Kwon trusted Tara and had already pulled her into the investigation, the ambassador gives her a flash drive containing the encryption key to access the funds. He urges her to use the money to buy the codes first, so they can stop the rogue group from gaining control of the missile and make sure Stiletto 6 is neutralized. She calls Matt, thanking him for letting her know about the assailants, and mentions that Kwon informed her that Stiletto 6 is real. So she is going to Ghana to set things straight. Matt wonders why she is telling him all this, so she explains that she wants to let someone know in case something happens to her. In North Korea, So-yeon goes to drop her son off at her mother's house for the day, but a soldier approaches her, revealing that he has done a background check on So-yeon and knows that her husband works for Colonel Shin. He explains that he wants to expose Colonel Shin as a traitor and threatens that he would tell the police about the syringe which had her fingerprints and was found next to General Kwon's body. He tells her to replace Colonel Shin's SIM and bring it to him by tonight, and if she fails to do that, he will take her mother and son to a labor camp. Later at night, So-yeon is in the middle of swapping the SIM card in the colonel's phone when a high-ranking officer interrupts her, and he asks her to play piano, but she is hesitant, as it is nearly midnight. However, Day convinces her to play, saying it will improve his image, so she starts playing but panics in the middle and rushes out. On the other hand, Doug and Samantha return from the club, but Doug finds an intruder in the house, who claims that Doug messed up his job in the Arctic, and he needs to come for reprogramming. Doug questions what is happening, so the man reveals that Doug left the heroin packets in the Arctic, which makes Doug confused. The man asks Doug to follow him, but Doug refuses and the two get into a fight. The man eventually overpowers Doug and is about to shoot him, but comments that Doug probably doesn't remember anything. He comments that Doug should ask his wife, but Samantha shoots him before he can say anything else. Samantha freaks out, crying that she killed a man, but Doug comforts her by saying that she was only protecting him. He suggests they call the police, but Samantha warns him against it, claiming that they need to figure a few things out, like what that man wanted. Doug explains that the man somehow knew both of them, but Samantha believes that it's not hard to find her name, as the man found their house. Doug explains that after his fight with Russians in the bar, he blacked out and woke up with someone's blood on his hands, so he believes that this man followed them because Doug killed someone. However, Samantha tells him to forget about that and focus on the issue at hand, so they eventually decide to dispose of the body. Meanwhile, the soldier believes that So-yeon hasn't completed her mission and orders for her mother and son to be captured, but So-yeon arrives there and swiftly kills both the soldiers before rushing to her mother's house. However, she is taken off guard by another soldier, and they get into an intense fight where he manages to knock her down multiple times, but So-yeon eventually gains the upper hand. Just as she is about to strangle him, a car stops by. and Colonel Shin steps out to reveal that he knew So-yeon was trying to get his SIM card during the party. He shoots the guard and tells So-yeon to go to him next time someone threatens. He hands her a card and says that for her next mission, she needs to deliver something before leaving. In the CIA headquarters, Ellen discusses a suspicious agreement, sponsored by Ray, that was passed by the Kremlin 48 hours after Kwan's death. However, they have no way to prove the connection, so her superior Dan asks about Matt, but he hasn't sent any update yet. Matt and Martin visit Haynes, who says that the hypnosis helped him put memories back together, and now he remembers that he had a 6-year-old daughter before he was recruited for training. Haynes claims that TREADSTONE completely removes all memories and gives assets a replacement cover. Haynes agrees to undergo hypnosis again, and under the spell he remembers that he was activated by a woman, but then starts talking about his daughter. When Martin pushes him to remember more about TREADSTONE, Haynes breaks out of his chains, killing Martin and knocking Matt unconscious. Elsewhere, Doug digs a grave, while Samantha removes the man's teeth and other identifying features. She presses Doug to think about the woman in the Arctic and panics when he mentions the nursery rhyme. Doug asks her how she was so good with the gun, but she deflects the question and hands him a saw to remove the feet. On the other hand, So-yeon returns home where Dae worries upon seeing her bruises and apologizes for pushing her to play piano. However, So-yeon only weeps and promises to tell him her reality after she gets some rest. Meanwhile, Matt wakes up to find Martin's dead body, along with multiple injured cops, and the police inform him that Haynes is headed towards the woods, so they rush there to capture him. Matt calls Ellen and explains that he thinks Haynes might be headed to his daughter Lila, so he is going there. But Ellen tells him to leave this to the FBI. Matt refuses to do so, and Ellen decides to loop in Dan so Matt doesn't get in trouble. When Samantha and Doug reach home, Samantha starts looking for bleach to remove the blood. While Doug discovers a file with his name on it and a blueprint of floor plans, Samantha grabs the file and finds a picture attached to it, and Doug quickly realizes that was the target given to him in the Arctic. Samantha apologizes to him and claims that TREADSTONE was supposed to be over, but somehow it has returned. She reveals that she was a nurse in D.C. who was transferred to a classified hospital in Virginia, where she was looking after assets, which included Doug. She tells him he was conditioned for months by the CIA, he was trained to take orders without question, and that his personality and morality were all wiped clean. She explains that a replacement cover life was provided to the assets, but Doug gets angry that Samantha wasn't going to tell him and leaves the house. In D.C., Ellen meets Dan and explains the situation, saying that Matt is working on the containment of the asset. Dan freaks out after realizing that Haynes remembers his training, and he insists that this needs to be a secret. Ellen questions why Dan put her on this case, suggesting he hired her as someone to take the blowback away from him, but tells her that he did so because she was never involved with TREADSTONE when it was active. Elsewhere, Matt finds someone dressed as a trooper, who turns out to be Haynes. As he knocked an officer unconscious and stole his uniform, Matt tries to talk Haynes into helping expose the people waking the cicadas up, and he eventually convinces Haynes by saying he'll help him to see his daughter before he gets caught by the police. Back in Kentucky, Doug is outside the home, still trying to process the new information, when Samantha comes out onto the porch and tells him that the photo is a mission, as all a CIA asset needs to complete a mission is a floor plan, the address, and a picture. Samantha explains that if he doesn't follow through with the mission, more people will be sent to kill them, and they won't last a week. Doug angrily wonders why she even thinks he is capable of killing, so she reveals that she helped create him, that his nightmares are actually his memories, and the voice singing to him is Samantha's. On the other hand, So-yeon tells her son that she is going to run an errand and might be late, so he hands her his monkey stuffed toy, saying that it will protect her. So-yeon follows the address given by Colonel Shin and reaches the outskirts of North Korea, where she shows the shopkeeper the card. He quickly closes the shop and hands her a document envelope along with a large amount of money before telling her to hurry up, as a man has been waiting for her. Another man appears and tells her that he is smuggling So-yeon to China, confusing So-yeon. Meanwhile, Samantha drives Doug to the location, but Doug wonders how many assets were there in total. She explains that Doug was asset 17 and reveals that despite having all his memories erased, she fell in love with the look of innocence Doug had and asks him to ensure that he returns to her after he completes the mission. Doug takes the gun and gets out of the car, telling Samantha to go home as a black van comes to pick Doug up. In the van, a man offers Doug a double-barreled shotgun, but Doug refuses it, saying he is more comfortable with his pistol, so the man warns him that they won't be able to save him if he fights with something so small, and hands him a bulletproof vest. Soon enough, they all arrive at a plant, and the leader reveals that the plan is to carry out a heist, asking them all to ensure they don't turn it into a shootout. He especially warns everyone to stay away from Patty Vernon, as she is the main boss, and Doug's memory shows the plant's blueprints, so he decides to go the other way. The men follow him, so he takes them in the building using the ventilator shafts, and upon reaching the main floor of the factory, they realize that the pills they want to steal are more heavily guarded than they thought. Doug notices his target, so he turns on the lights, exposing the thieves and shooting in the air, which alerts the guards, who start shooting at the intruders. During the shootout, Doug swiftly moves towards his target, knocking out any guard who comes in his way before Doug runs into his friend Mike from the oil rig. Doug orders him to run away and threatens him to keep his mouth shut or he will be in danger. He then shoots Patty Vernon's bodyguards, asking her why the CIA wants her dead, but she doesn't have an answer to that and insists that she can pay Doug. However, he isn't interested in the money and shoots her dead. Back in 1973, John heads to a bar in Budapest and questions the bartender if he remembers the 3 CIA agents who were last seen there 5 months ago. But the bartender refuses to answer him and leaves. Later, when the bar is empty, the bartender pulls a gun on John, but John easily subdues him. However, he realizes that the bartender has called for backup, so he turns on the gas and breaks the light bulb, leaving the room in darkness. When the men arrive, one of them flips the light switch, causing the gas-filled room to explode. John then puts a gun to an injured man's head and asks why they want to kill him. So the man claims that John had been threatening them on behalf of the KGB. He claims that more people will come after John, as they know where he lives, while John, having no such memory, asks him for the address. In the present, Tara arrives in Ghana to meet her friend Megan, who is also a journalist, and reveals that she needs to see Sebastian for research on Stiletto 6. Megan explains that Sebastian was caught smuggling rifles, so he is in prison, but she can help get Tara to see him using a connection. Elsewhere, the smuggler tells So-Yun to hide in his boat as he will take her to China under the disguise of taking smokes. But before they can leave, a car spots them, and the officer checks the smuggler's permit to realize that it's forged. The officer shoots the smuggler, but So-Yun overpowers the officer and opens fire on him, killing him. Having no other choice, she pushes the boat out into the water and starts rowing before realizing that she left her son's monkey behind. In Beijing, Nira arrives at a train station where she finds a locker key beneath a chair, which she uses to open a locker with a bag containing weapons and So-Yun's picture with her face circled red. On the other side, Tara gets inside the prison, and Sebastian flirts with her, claiming that she must have returned to start a family with him. So she explains that she didn't come to visit for small talk, but because she needs help with Stiletto 6. Sebastian gets defensive, saying that Tara only uses people and doesn't know how to form a genuine connection. Back in 1973, John arrives at an apartment building where the caretaker is shocked to see him. He explains that John lived there for 4 months, but said he would never return when he left. However, the caretaker gives him the key to the same apartment where John discovers a mirror, so he breaks it to find a hidden room behind it. There he finds videos of himself torturing CIA agents and getting intimate with Petra. But the caretaker barges in, saying that John isn't supposed to be in this room. After multiple threats, the caretaker admits that the Russians brought him here, but also says that John started to enjoy inflicting pain on others, as he believed that was his real purpose in life. Meanwhile, Tara rushes after Sebastian and begs him to contact Yuri for the launch codes of Stiletto 6, but he refuses to get involved with something like this. In a flashback, John calls his mother from a bar but hangs up after hearing her voice. On his way out, he bumps into a woman who starts a conversation with him, eventually telling him that she can help John to work through his past trauma, as she has worked with war veterans before. After crossing the river, So-Yun reaches a man who scolds her for being late and then demands the transfer money from her before putting her in a van full of Korean people defecting to China. She comes across a family, which reminds her of how she has left her son behind at home. Back in Ghana, with the help of a guard, an inmate gets a small weapon and stabs Sebastian, who is rushed to the hospital where Tara meets him in the ambulance. She comforts him by saying that the wound will heal within a week without any complications, and explains that this was her only way out. Sebastian is shocked that Tara went so far as getting him stabbed, but then laughs at her ambition, and he decides to help her. The two join Megan and get on a chopper, with Tara saying she will explain the entire mission to them once they've taken off. Elsewhere, Doug returns home and tells Samantha that they've turned him into a monster. So Samantha tries to tell him that he isn't a monster, but Doug doesn't believe anything she says anymore. In the past, a woman from the bar takes John down to a secret section and tells him to leave both past and future behind, so he can feel present in the moment. He wonders how he can do that, so she gives him drugs and he passes out. Back in the present, the van driver tells So-Yun to get off in the middle of the road, from where she rushes inside the woods where she meets Nira, who demands the envelope. So-Yun hands it to her, but realizes they're the same files on Stiletto 6 that her husband was working on, so she tries to snatch them back, but Nira pulls out a gun. The two get into a fight as So-Yun throws down Nira's gun and attacks her, but Nira manages to land a few hits. The two struggle against each other to pick up the fallen gun, and Nira eventually succeeds before shooting So-Yun in the stomach. Nira quickly picks up the files and leaves, while So-Yun falls to the ground. Doug heads to Mike to tell him to say he didn't see anything if cops come for an investigation, but Mike reveals that Doug killed a cop in the chaos. Mike claims that he can't go back to prison and apologizes, as he has already called the police, who barge in, so Doug fights them before escaping on his motorbike. The cops chase him and eventually hit his motorbike with their own, making Doug fall unconscious. On the other hand, So-yeon is badly injured but still alive, so she uses all her energy to reach the nearby village where she passes out but is spotted by multiple people, who rush to help her. Back in 1973, Petra arrives at the apartment building, only to realize that John left 2 hours ago, so her men shoot the caretaker and wonder if Petra even wants to find John. Petra threatens to kill him if he doubts her loyalty once more, and she rushes out. John gains consciousness, and the woman tells him to relax his mind and replay his memories, so he remembers how Petra had hit his head with a bat, leading to his capture by the KGB. He is woken up by cold water, and Petra tells him that he has been programmed to think that the KGB is evil, but she hopes that one day people will volunteer to improve themselves. Petra injects drugs into him, and then tells Dr. Meissner that John is an exceptional candidate for their program. In the present, the cop chasing Doug turns out to be one of the agents who went on a heist with him, but he tells their boss named Leo to deal with Doug when he arrives at the scene. Leo kills the agent and orders Doug to stay on the mission, but asks about Lowell's whereabouts, so Doug lies that he doesn't know where he is even after finding out that Lowell is the man Samantha killed. Leo realizes that something is suspicious and comments that he will find Samantha, so Doug shoots him before escaping. However, Leo is still alive, and he drives away unaware that Doug is following him. Meanwhile, So-yeon wakes up at a clinic and thanks the doctor for treating her but leaves despite the doctor's insistence that she needs rest. In Virginia, Ellen is worried as she hasn't heard back from Matt, and Dan gets worried that Matt is keeping them out of the loop while working with a cicada. Ellen hands him Haynes' file, saying she realized Haynes was a fake identity after Matt told her about his daughter. So now it is confirmed that he is a cicada. She asks Dan to look into who activated him, but Dan orders her to solve the problem at hand and find out where Matt is. In another flashback, John suffers extreme torture, including electroshock treatment, flashing lights, and stress positions, but he refuses to comply or even tell them his name, so the doctors suggest they remove him from the program. But Petra insists on increasing the torture. However, even after doing that, John refuses to answer them, so Dr. Meissner orders his elimination, and Petra apologizes to him for not being able to save him. Back in the present, Matt and Haynes arrive at Haynes' daughter's house, but he claims that he didn't come here to see her, as he had deduced that agents who activated him would be waiting for him there. The agents open fire on them, but the two retaliate and eventually kill them, with Haynes strangling the woman who activated him. Matt takes a picture of the woman, and he sends it to Ellen, who finds out that the woman was named Carol, and she worked for Emery Martin Corporate, a company the CIA uses as a front for covering identities. Ellen informs Dan of the situation, but he suggests that they terminate Haynes, considering the high number of people he has killed. In 1973, John unlocks another set of memories, of when he was kept in isolation, and he started hearing invisible people call his name. When Petra comes to give him food, he hurriedly eats it, as they have been starving him, and eventually tells her that his name is John. He breaks down and Petra hugs him, telling him that everything will be okay before telling the guard that John is ready for the next level. In present day, Doug eventually follows Leo into a building, where he makes a listening device out of a laser pointer and a stolen phone. After locating Leo's office, he overhears the conversation, in which he tells a woman that Doug can't be trusted anymore. He plans on killing both Doug and Samantha by using another asset to do it, but the woman questions what will happen to Patty Vernon, as she controlled a $100 million share in opioid pills, and now another company wants to make it legal. They also mention something about Marcus Sachs, but Leo tells her not to worry, as he will ensure it is taken care of by the next day. In another flashback, John remembers his training where nursery rhymes would play in the background while he would fight multiple targets. After one training session, Petra mentions that others will never be able to break John's record, making him wonder if she says the same things to the other men, but she quickly lies that he is the only one for her. After that, he is taken to Budapest, where a CIA agent named Matheson is sent to rescue John. But John tortures him on Petra's orders. Later in the shower, Petra joins John and he tries to choke her, saying that he doesn't have any control when she is around, but she lies that she feels the same way and gets intimate with him. During his final test, John begs Petra not to force him to kill the CIA agents, but he loses control, so the guards drag him away. He wakes up from the trance and the woman tells him to run, as their club has been raided by the KGB. John gets out, but he is so heavily drugged that he feels the building is melting, until he gets run over by a car and Petra comes out of it. On the other hand, So-yeon returns home but finds that Dae and her son aren't there. Colonel Shin joins her, explaining that her son is with his grandmother while Dae is working on a secret project. So-yeon questions why Shin is detaining Dae, despite So-yeon following all the orders, but Shin only tells her that he will be informing her about another mission soon. However, just as Shin's convoy is about to leave, So-yeon hides herself in the car's trunk. Elsewhere, Matt and Haynes have dinner, and Haynes explains that the higher-ups will try to take the case into their hands so they can bury it. But Haynes wants to eliminate this evil. Later, Matt gets a call from Ellen, who tells him that Matt is authorized to terminate Haynes based on the casualties he is causing, but Matt refuses, saying that they plan to bring down TREADSTONE, and he angrily hangs up. Matt gets in the car and Haynes questions whether they ordered Matt to kill him, and Matt comes clean. Ellen informs Dan that Matt isn't compliant, so Dan dispatches a strike team to bring him and Haynes in, saying that Matt is a rogue agent who is helping a psychopathic killer escape the authorities. Doug rushes home to find that Samantha has dyed her hair, bought a car with cash, and made bags with passports and fake IDs so they can go on the run, as she knew the CIA will be sending a strike team to their house. On the way, Doug explains that Lowell's boss came looking for them, and he believes that they plan on killing Marcus Sachs soon. Samantha searches for him and discovers that Marcus is a geologist specializing in rare earth metals, but they are unable to find the connection between him and Patty Vernon. Doug insists that they help Marcus, so Samantha hesitantly searches his address, and Doug insists on saving him. Back in 1973, when John regains consciousness, he tells Petra that he remembers everything now, including her manipulation. But she claims that she actually fell for him. A man rushes in congratulating Petra for catching John, but Petra shoots him and tells John that they should run together. But John insists that he has to save Matheson after Petra reveals that he is alive. KGB agents arrive, so Petra and John fight them together. After which Petra takes John to a safe house. In the present, So-Yun arrives in Seoul with Shin's convoy and overhears the men in her car saying that Shin will be meeting Yuri and the Russians at the Chroma Club in Incheon. Once the men step out to smoke, So-Yun leaves the car and heads inside the restaurant where Shin is having a meeting, but she is kicked out by the staff, who claim that the restaurant is only for customers with a reservation. She goes out to Seoul's streets and throws her wallet in the bin before stealing a woman's purse. Petra arrives in Greece, where she is informed that the largest yacht belongs to Yuri, a billionaire living his best life, which reminds her of all the sacrifices she has made for the KGB only for them to abandon her. When Yuri arrives on the mainland for a meeting, Petra follows him to the outskirts of Greece. In a flashback, young Petra arrives at the safe house with John, but he tells her that things between them won't work out as they are on different sides, but Petra insists that she doesn't have a side anymore. John says he needs some air and Petra insists on joining him, prompting John to claim that she is scared she will lose her cicada, so she lets him go out alone. In modern-day Berlin, Tara explains to Sebastian that if Stiletto 6 goes off, millions of people will be killed, and she feels like she can save them, but Sebastian advises her not to put such a huge responsibility on herself. He asks her to give him a week, and she thinks he might be setting her up for a meeting with Yuri, but he jokingly claims that it's the time he needs to make his way back into her heart. He explains that he has already called Yuri's men, saying that there is a potential buyer of Stiletto 6 launch codes, and Tara thanks him. Meanwhile, So-Yun makes a listening device with the stolen phones and she goes shopping so she can fit in with the elite club culture of Incheon. However, the store owner comments that So-Yun might not be able to afford their shop, prompting So-Yun to pull out a wad of cash, which makes the woman show her best dresses to So-Yun. On the other side, Megan informs Tara that she has contacted Nolan, their source, for another story leak, but he stopped responding to her after she mentioned TREADSTONE, making Megan believe that he is hiding something. Suddenly, their car is ambushed by multiple men who knock them unconscious and kidnap them. In another flashback, John is walking through the town but comes across a CIA agent who starts to chase John. They get into a fight, and John claims that he doesn't want to hurt the agent, but the man pulls out a gun, calling John a traitor, so John shoots the man dead before running away. Back in the present, Tara gains consciousness, and she regrets dragging her friends into this mess, but Megan reassures her that they came on their own accord. The men come into the room to demand the money from Tara, and when Tara pretends not to know, they shoot Megan dead. They ask her again, but she doesn't reply, so they put a gun to Sebastian's head, eventually forcing Tara to give them the password for the cryptocurrency. After that, the men throw Sebastian and Tara out on the road, so the two rush to their apartment, and Sebastian begs Tara to let go of the Stiletto 6 chase, but she claims that she has to finish the case for Megan. She warns him that she can't be close to anyone she loves, and she forces him to leave her alone. Petra follows Yuri to a resort where he meets with Senator Ray, who thanks Yuri for helping with a trade agreement. After that, Petra confronts Yuri, demanding answers about his plans for Stiletto 6, but he claims that it's not Petra's concern, which makes her angry, as she was assigned to guard it with her life. She questions whether he is selling the missile, and he reveals the North Koreans are purchasing it. She calls him a traitor, but Yuri explains that protecting the missile was a punishment for the emotional decisions Petra made in her youth. He explains that he knew she was stalking him and orders her to head back to her farm. In 1973, a flustered John rushes back to Petra, weeping that the Russians have taken everything from him, as he can't even go back home anymore. In his despair, he almost makes a fatal decision, but Petra stops him by saying that Meissner's alive and he is training Matheson and other agents in another location. She doesn't know where, but she promises to find it through Yuri, and the two get intimate. In the present, Tara calls Nolan, who quickly tries to excuse himself once Tara explains that Megan is dead, but Tara begs him to help her. She asks him about TREADSTONE, but he pretends that her voice was unclear, saying he will answer her questions if she visits him in Moscow, so Tara quickly books her flight. Meanwhile, So-yeon enters the club by saying that she is meeting the Russians and then rushes to the VIP area, but she is stopped there, so she flirts with the bouncer and moves in. Elsewhere, Doug and Samantha reach Marcus's house, so Doug urges Samantha to stay in the car and keep it running while he will go inside. Samantha protests, but Doug convinces her and heads inside the house, which explodes just as he enters, making Samantha rush after him. Doug survives the explosion and finds Marcus alive as well, when suddenly they hear Marcus's wife calling for him. But Doug stops Marcus, saying that the acid is using his wife as bait. Doug hands Marcus a gun and tells him to hide in a corner while Doug diverts the attack. Just when the acid opens fire, the two get into a fight and Doug manages to snatch the gun, but the man pushes Doug and pulls out his pistol. Samantha arrives and distracts him, but the man overpowers her and he is about to shoot her, but she calls him by his name Vincent, which shocks him and gives Doug enough time to stand up to resume the fight. Marcus tries to shoot Vincent, but he opens fire on Marcus and his wife also gets shot. Doug picks up Marcus's gun, but after another intense fight, Doug strangles Vincent before stabbing his neck until he dies. Doug rushes to Samantha, who tells him that Marcus and his wife have passed away. Samantha weeps, saying that they are going to end up like this as well, as the CIA will catch up to them. So Doug urges Samantha to fake his death. They unlock Vincent's phone using Face ID, and she takes a picture of Doug covered in blood before sending it to Vincent's handler, marking the job complete. On the other hand, So-yeon plants the device in the VIP room before flirting with Yuri in Russian, and Yuri gives her his hotel room number, asking her to stop by later. She heads out and listens to the conversation as the meeting starts, where Shin thanks Yuri for getting the funds back, and he reveals that Dae will be blamed for the launch of Stiletto 6 as his wife is a cicada. Meanwhile, Tara reaches a church in Moscow and heads to the basement where she meets Nolan, and she demands information about TREADSTONE, but he is hesitant. As even talking about TREADSTONE can get people killed, he finally admits that TREADSTONE was a part of Blackbriar, the CIA Black Ops unit that got exposed, explaining that they enhance humans with drugs and conditioning. Tara promises she will ensure it doesn't backfire on Nolan, so he orders his team to do a detailed search on Yuri. Elsewhere, Haynes suggests that Matt turn him in. Otherwise, both of them will get killed. He claims that Matt will be able to find those who are activating the assets, saying that Matt gave Haynes the chance to save his daughter, so he is now fine with getting caught. Back with Tara, Nolan's team explains that Yuri had his KGB files destroyed, but surprisingly, everyone else who worked on the Stiletto 6 program with him is dead. He explains that Yuri's investment partner, Max, was found dead a few days ago. They both had plenty of references in their history connected to the cicadas and Stiletto 6. Nolan comments that a physical file that was never digitized is stored in the Russian State Military Archive, but no one can get the credentials for it. On the other hand, the CIA Alpha team is about to attack Matt, while Ellen makes a last-ditch effort to convince Dan, but she fails and Dan authorizes the attack. Matt makes a turn into the forest, and when the Alpha team corners him, Haynes isn't in the car anymore, and only Matt steps outside. Matt calls the CIA, saying that if anything happens to him, Haynes plans on killing the entire Alpha team, as he has Matt's AR-15 and 200 rounds of ammunition. Dan asks for proof of Haynes being on site, so Matt raises his hand and Haynes shoots a few bullets to the ground. The CIA accepts Matt's demand not to be killed, and Haynes turns himself in as well, but the Alpha team shoots Haynes on the spot. In Seoul, So-yeon hears that Dae will be framed for the bomb and quickly attacks the bouncer to get inside the VIP room. So Shin quickly leaves through the back door while So-yeon fights multiple guards. She steals the gun of a guard and opens fire, which causes the entire crowd to rush out, and she opens fire on Shin's car, but he escapes. Matt is brought in for investigation, and he tells Ellen that he stopped trusting her when she ordered the kill on Haynes. He claims that Haynes could have helped them find out why the assets were being activated, but Ellen justifies his killing and says that she can't risk her family. He bitterly says that his family wouldn't want her covering up the CIA's mistakes, but Ellen scolds him for leaving her in the dark when she sent him to investigate. When Matt questions Ellen about the woman who activated Haynes, Ellen refuses to answer and tells Matt to go home. Matt stays back searching for information on Carol, and eventually finds that she was part of a trade with Yuri. But he suddenly loses access to his CIA account, forcing him to head home. Dan had taken away Matt's access to the CIA computers, and he orders a complete surveillance on Matt. Meanwhile, Tara reaches the Russian State Military Archive, but the forged ID made by Nolan doesn't clear, and the guard demands to see the ID, so Tara drops it, while Nolan urges his subordinate to get her credentials. When she tries again, the ID clears, and she is allowed inside. Nolan freezes the security camera while Tara rushes into the secret area and takes pictures of Yuri's files, but they only find Petra's information from it before a guard comes to check the area, and Tara has to rush back. Since they find no information on Petra after 1995, Tara asks them for her husband's address and heads there. On the other hand, Samantha and Doug reach Vincent's apartment, where Samantha starts explaining that Vincent spoke 8 languages. His cover identity had a mother who worked in fashion, while his father was in American financial services. They search the house to find his weapons, money, and passports. After that, Doug shaves his head to pass off as Vincent and learns how to write with his left hand. Elsewhere, So-yeon runs from the police and reaches the American embassy, where she insists that she has escaped from North Korea and has urgent info for the CIA, so the embassy takes her in. After that, Tara calls Matt to inform him that Yuri's men killed her friend, and now she is heading to Kursk to meet Petra, just so someone knows about her whereabouts in case she gets killed. Dan listens to this conversation, as he has hacked Matt's phone and becomes anxious about them getting closer to the Cicada program. Tara then knocks on Petra's door, telling her that she is a journalist who wants some information on Yuri, so Petra invites her for tea, while hiding a gun behind her back. In Washington, D.C., Matt enters a mosque and blends in with Muslims, offering prayer to escape the guard keeping an eye on him. After that, Matt goes to a parking lot, and he calls Inspector Van Roon from the Violent Crimes Division to reveal that the CIA is running a global criminal group. Van calls it a serious accusation, making Matt explain that he has enough evidence to start an investigation and visit Amsterdam to give the details. But Dan hears all this conversation. Dan quickly sends for Ellen, and he explains that the CIA is advancing the national interest by reactivating the TREADSTONE assets, which makes Ellen angry, but he urges her to leave morality behind. Ellen resigns as she no longer wants to be involved in this, but he warns her that he has a recording of her authorizing Haynes' murder, and that he will send her to prison unless she joins TREADSTONE. Meanwhile, Doug looks at his pills, and Samantha reveals that as long as they are in his system, he won't be controlled by hypnotic suggestibility. She shows him that she has made a profile on a dating app, which they both will use to notify each other of emergencies. But Doug shuts the laptop and disappointedly comments that Samantha must have planned their first meeting. Samantha apologizes, but Doug comforts her, saying that he thinks she is the best woman for him. The next morning, Samantha explains that when the program finished, a group of people made a secret way to reach out to each other, so she draws a few marks and eventually finds an address in the mail. She tells Doug that the CIA will want her to work for them, and she will start her investigation there. However, Doug comments that they may never see each other again, but Samantha considers it their only way to survive, and she gets into a cab with the CIA member named Leo. On the other hand, Dan shows Ellen a secret group called TREADSTONE, which she considers an illegal act of war and refuses to be dragged into it. In 1973, Petra informs John that they have an hour before they meet with Yuri, so she comments that they will never see Russia again if she sticks to their plan. But John tells her that he was raised in Ohio, which has beautiful countryside, and hopes that maybe they can settle there together. He gives her the watch he found in the lab, and she excitedly takes it, claiming that it was her mother's. In the present, Doug gets a notification on Vincent's phone and realizes that he has been assigned a new target, so he quickly gets ready for the mission. In a flashback, Petra takes John to Yuri, and she makes John lie that his life's purpose is to be a soldier for them. She hits John multiple times, and Yuri praises Petra's strength before getting intimate with her. She stops him before he goes too far, and Yuri orders John to be sent to Meissner's lab. Back in the present, Petra questions why Tara came so far to ask about Yuri. But when Tara doesn't answer, Petra takes out her gun, eventually making Tara claim that she is chasing Stiletto 6. Petra warns that in the past people were killed for even mentioning Stiletto 6, but claims that times have changed and urges Tara to follow her. Meanwhile, in 1973, John is taken to Dr. Meissner's new lab, where he is injected with drugs to complete his training, and he is put inside a cell. But when he wakes up, he finds Matheson in the same cell. He tells Matheson that he can find a way for them to get out, but Matheson has been fully conditioned, and he calls the guards, warning them that John isn't one of them, so they beat John up. On the other hand, Doug searches for details about the indigenous leader named Vicuña, who is his new target, and realizes that a mining company has been trying to steal land, but Vicuña is standing up for his people. He sends Samantha a draft message, asking if things are fine on her end, and reaches Colombia, where a man reminds him to finish the deal within 24 hours. Back with John, he calls Matheson's name multiple times and tries to remind Matheson of his identity. However, Dr. Meissner appears, so John quickly puts on the act, and Meissner hands them one gun with a single bullet, saying this is to test to see who is the best out of two. Just when he leaves, Matheson attacks John and starts assembling the gun, but John steals the bullet. He again urges Matheson that they have to work together. But Matheson has no memories of ever being in the CIA, so John starts to remind Matheson of his wife and children. And when Matheson doesn't remember, John steals the gun and threatens to shoot his friend. However, Matheson still can't recall anything, so John shoots the wall near his head. Suddenly, Matheson remembers his wife and John urges him to fight their way out. When the guards arrive, the two knock them out to steal their weapons before rushing out and killing multiple guards. They try to free other victims, but one of them refuses to leave as he is waiting for the red-haired woman, making John wonder if Petra has been here, but they rush out. However, just as they are about to get in a car to leave, Meissner comes out and asks John to complete his mission by shooting him, as killing Meissner is part of the plan. When John refuses to fulfill it, Matheson shoots Meissner and they leave. In the present, Doug arrives at the land of dispute and finds weapons in his camp. He opens his laptop, which has a message from Samantha saying that the CIA doesn't trust her, which makes him anxious. Elsewhere, Petra takes Tara to the bomb at gunpoint but reveals that Yuri has won as the nuclear warhead was removed and stolen from Petra's backyard. Meanwhile, So-Yun manages to reach out to Dan, explaining that Yuri is behind Stiletto 6 and he has sold launch codes to Shin, who is on his way to Cyprus. Back with Tara, Petra offers her a drink, explaining that in 1986 a Soviet submarine sank, and when a research vessel found the remains, they realized that 34 nuclear warheads were missing, so the world has been living with hidden nuclear threats for decades. On the other side, So-Yun demands US citizenship for her family, so Dan asks her to eliminate Shin, and in return he will provide them asylum in the US. Ellen questions Dan if he knew about this already, so Dan repeatedly states that he wouldn't have authorized the attack on Kwon if he knew a nuclear bomb was involved. But Ellen doesn't believe him. Having no other choice, Ellen takes charge and orders them to find all of Yuri's holdings in Cyprus before asking for Yuri's current location. An agent reports he is on his way to Moscow, and Ellen asks if she can make a remote activation of an asset, which Dan confirms. The asset turns out to be Tara, whose phone plays the nursery rhyme, and a picture of Yuri with a red circle around his face is sent to her. Matt was led to believe that Haynes was killed, but he was brought back and reprogrammed into becoming a compliant asset again. Tara gets a flashback of her village being invaded, with several officers murdering the locals, where Tara was also captured and tortured. She quickly drops her phone, while Petra claims that Tara is a cicada. Tara realizes that her family wasn't killed in a car accident and that her sister might still be alive. On the other hand, Dan explains that Tara was one of their first cicadas, and she was tasked with killing Yuri, but TREADSTONE was shut off, so her assignment remained incomplete. Tara tells Petra that she won't feel any guilt about killing Yuri, making Petra hand her gun to Tara. But Tara demands a better gun. Petra shows Tara her collection and explains that Yuri will make her fight multiple men and try to escape, so Tara should ensure he doesn't run away. Back in 1973, John wonders if Meissner planned to send them back to the CIA, as they don't know what he really did to their minds, but Matheson dismisses it, and he claims that the only way for John to get over Petra is to kill her. Petra heads to the safe house where she promised to meet John, but she finds herself surrounded by the CIA. She fights several of them, easily overpowering them. Until three men with guns corner and arrest her. At present, an agent reports that Yuri's warehouse has received a shipment matching the size of the warhead, and he has 3 private jets ready for takeoff. So Ellen orders the Bravo team to attack before the jets leave. Suddenly, an agent alerts Dan that they've found Matt's location, as Tara called him. So Dan orders a team to eliminate Matt, making Ellen protest, but Dan considers it necessary. The Bravo team reaches the warehouse and opens fire, while Tara arrives at Yuri's mansion. So Yuri orders all nearby security to subdue her. Tara defeats 2 guards before getting into a shootout with Yuri's men. When she reaches Yuri's room, he opens fire at his door, but Tara breaks in and gets into a fight with him. She tries to strangle him, but he kicks her in the stomach to push her off and grabs a gun. However, Tara attacks him before he can shoot, but Yuri still manages to overpower her and knock her to the ground. When she gains consciousness, Yuri is already in a car, ready to escape, so Tara jumps down from the window and shoots at the car, but Yuri runs her over before driving away. Meanwhile, the Bravo team manages to kill all security in the warehouse, and they secure the nuclear bomb. Back in the past, Petra is brought to Dennis, who reveals that John leaked all her information to the CIA, showing her the tracking device John had been wearing all along. Dennis asks her for the details of the program. saying that Petra has no friends because she betrayed the KGB, and John never trusted her, but she refuses to speak. In present-day Virginia, Samantha tells Leo that she cannot find Doug, saying she believes the program was over. On the other hand, Doug is taken to meet Vicuña but starts hyperventilating upon seeing him. Back with Samantha, Leo explains that Vincent killed Doug, and Samantha starts fake crying. Suddenly, a woman joins them and explains that Vincent has missed his target window, making Leo claim that the locals would start a revolt if Vicuña gives his speech. Samantha quickly texts Doug that he is running out of time, and Doug becomes more anxious upon reading it. Dan enters the TREADSTONE room, and the agents reveal that Van Roon is on the way to meet Matt, so they decide to intercept him. Two men torture Van with a taser until he passes out, and then drag him away, with the order from Dan to check all his hard drives. Dan orders Haynes to eliminate Matt, who Matt quickly recognizes and runs away. Haynes pulls out a gun and opens fire, making Matt shoot back before escaping. He eventually finds Matt, and the two fall into the nearby river, where Haynes tries to drown him while Matt tries to remind him of his memories. Begging him to spare his life, Matt calls out Haynes' real name, which makes him regain control, but Tara shoots Haynes dead and orders Matt to stay quiet as the CIA is monitoring him through his phone. In Pyongyang, So-Yun returns home, but Day reveals that Colonel Shin got their son selected for a special training program. Her mother tells her that it is the same program So-Yun was selected for. So So-Yun begins to weep before claiming that she will fix it and bring her son back. On the other hand, Doug follows Vicuña into the woods with the intention of killing him, but overhears some officers offering him money. When Vicuña refuses them, the officers throw him to the ground and brutally beat him up. So Doug intervenes and beats both officers, but one of them stabs Doug, making him unconscious. Samantha rushes to Leo, saying she can help them with Vincent, but Leo shows her a picture of the dead Vicuña, which Doug took when Vicuña was badly beaten, and Leo claims that Vincent is back on track. Leo explains that a mining company wants a rare earth metal, so the CIA is helping them. Samantha questions why the CIA is helping them, so the woman comments that because of the high population they are clearing places like South America and the Arctic for the Americans, so they can move them there. In a flashback to 1973, Dennis thanks John for proving his loyalty, but John wants revenge for Frank's murder, and he says that he is quitting. Dennis stops him, saying that Russian conditioning is far better than American, so they need his and Petra's help. He takes John to Petra, who weeps at John's betrayal. However, John only asks how many other prisoners are under her honey trap, which enrages her, and she attacks him, claiming that she left everything for him. Back in the present, Vicuña cleans up Doug's wounds, and Doug admits that he was sent here to kill Vicuña in order to protect his wife, but Doug can't do it. Elsewhere, Ellen gets a call from Matt, relieved to hear he is alive, revealing that she sent Tara to help him. Suddenly, a car stops near Ellen, making her realize that TREADSTONE has come for her. Tara tells Matt that she volunteered for TREADSTONE, but Matt urges her that they need to find out who is corrupting the program and stop it. Meanwhile, Nira enters Dan's house, and he tells her to inform the higher-ups that they shouldn't have taken their eyes off Russia before she shoots him dead. Ellen is taken to Senator Ray, who introduces her to a team, saying he invited her to discuss TREADSTONE. On the other hand, Petra drives a luxury car to a cabin in the woods where she meets an older John Randolph Bentley. That's the TREADSTONE series recapped. If you enjoyed the video, your love is much appreciated, and I'll catch you all on the next one.